Hello, everybody, and welcome back to QuipScope. It's the show where we talk about a game that we've just played that is recent, and we show some footage of it as well. If you're watching the video version, obviously, if you're listening to the podcast version, then no footage for you. My name is Ben.
And my name is James.
Hi, James.
Hello.
So we've both been playing the closed network test for Elden Ring. Very excited. Codes for this have been going online for several $100s, which is absolutely bonkers to me. But it was open to everybody. You know, you could apply online, and we were lucky enough to get codes and give it a try. Frustratingly, and understandably, because it was a network stress test, there were very specific time slots that you could play in. And because of how they fell across this weekend, I didn't get as much time with it as I obviously would have liked. So I managed to play it for about 3.5 hours, which is still quite a lot.
That's decent, that's good.
But they give you a big old chunk of the opening area, a number of bosses, and they really get you, they give you a chance to actually have a feel for what.
Yeah.
I mean, well, tick it off on the bingo cards, everyone. Breath of the Wild Dark Souls is all about. How did you find it?
I was super impressed. So obviously, you know, the funny thing about the Breath of the Wild comparisons and it being an open world, that was the one thing that I was a little bit unsure of how they were going to approach it, really, because obviously, you know, all the Soulsborne games, meticulous level design, and it's about that sort of, you know, working your way through the labyrinthine levels and working out secret shortcuts and just the beauty of discovery there. But they absolutely nailed it, I think. They've made it so it's not just the sort of copy and paste, here's a bunch of identical outposts and then just vast expanses of nothingness. There's quite a lot of space there, but there's loads of things to discover. And it's one of those where, like, you will always be, and that's the other thing as well. You need, like, a sense of reward for discovering these things, and there's always usually a boss, a mini dungeon and a boss. But how about yourself? How did you find it?
I loved it, and I think honestly I played the correct amount because it was enough to whet my appetite. A lot of outlets managed to get into this test about a week and a half before everybody else. So a lot of people who are interested in this game will have seen extensive coverage already from a number of major outlets. But I quite liked the fact that I didn't really get as much time with it as I would have liked, because it just makes me more excited for the full release. As a big Soulsborne fan and not a fan of Sekiro, I was scared that this would be some, you know, kind of a melding of the two. And to an extent, certainly some of the boss fights and their sort of sporadic, unpredictable attack patterns was a bit Sekiro, but ultimately it is the Soulsborne combat that I know and love and understand, at least, whereas Sekiro obviously was a completely different system that you had to learn.
That's right. Yeah, I was so happy that it just felt so familiar.
Yeah.
In terms of Dark Souls, so I've only played the Dark Souls game, so 1 to 3. Working on that, going to be working on that real soon with Bloodborne, hopefully. And it's one of those where it from what I could tell, it's taken a few shades of like Sekiro, or Sekiro, in terms of sort of mobility and sort of verticality. You can jump now. There's a jump button. It's no longer just a yeet yourself a little bit forward.
Well, speaking of yeeting yourself very quickly, because now everything else is mapped to triangle, like interacting with things is now triangle, and in all other Soulsborne games it's been X, and now X is jump. I frequently found myself going to interact with like a lever for a lift and then just launching myself forwards without even thinking about it. There's a lot of muscle memory that I'm gonna have to overcome to get over that hurdle, I think.
I know what you mean, because like with two-handing it was so simple before, so you just press like Y or triangle and you're away. I had to think, like actually consciously, like make a conscious effort to do that and press the right combination of buttons. So in this, like you hold down Y or triangle and use like either of the L1 and R1. And that is a bit tricky when you're deep in a boss fight and everything's kicking off and they're kicking your ass. They do. And I mean, like, speaking of which, how are you finding like the combat in terms of like difficulty?
I struggled initially, and I think it's because they do that classic FromSoft thing and you know, with it now being an open world, especially where it puts you out into the open world and then reminds you of what you're playing. And there's the big guy who's on his armored horse, and he is technically a boss, but he's just free roaming in the environment, and he'll
right at the start
just kill you in one hit. Came back later after leveling up a bit, completely different conversation, but he's just there. There's a sneak button. You can now crouch and like sneak around. Obviously, the jumping is huge because you can scale all sorts of stuff, get around the environment, you know, far more differently. That doesn't make sense than before. You can summon a little spectral steed, Torrent.
Oh my god,
who's incredible and can also 2/3 of a triple jump.
Nice.
So you can jump twice while on horseback, and you can summon it almost, well, pretty much anywhere in the open world.
Yeah.
And so if you're getting in trouble, you just do a little whistle, and then your steed just apparates beneath you, and you can zoom off again. So
jump over the enemies and run off. Yeah,
getting around is super fast. Obviously, mounted combat is now a thing that was never a thing before, which is also really good. You know, you R1 to attack to the right, L1 to attack to the left.
It's tricky with timings, but it's a lot of fun when you get down, I think.
It does work. In terms of some of the basic stuff that obviously carries over, there's no Estus, but it's Estus by another name.
Yeah.
It's like Dark Souls 3 in that you have a specific Estus for your FP, your sort of magic power as well. And you can change your attunement of them, so you can have more of one or more of the other. There's runes are your souls, so they're the currency. If you die, you drop them, but they are marked on a little compass at the top, so you can find them easily in the open world.
We'll continue calling it souls, but still.
Yep, so will I. Sites of Lost Grace are bonfires, and you sit at those, and you can wait and pass the time in the open world, and certain enemies will come out at night or be more active at night. There's just lots of... They've created a lot of problems for themselves by adapting the Soulsborne formula to an open world. But then they've solved so many of those issues in such brilliant ways. Not only by allowing you to fast travel between sites of Lost Grace and other specific locations from anywhere in the open world, as long as you're not in combat. But also these, I can't remember what they're called. There are these little statues you come across.
Statues of Melka or Melika or
something
like that.
Something like that. And they're usually nearby a group of enemies or an encampment or something like that. And if you die, you get a choice to either go back to the last site of Lost Grace that you sat at, or a nearby statue. And you don't need to interact with the statue, you just need to have gone past it. Yeah, so there's lots of cool stuff like that just to make navigating this world that much easier.
Absolutely. And then, you know, you've got the different what's the word here? What am I looking for? It's the gambit, basically, of, or do I spawn a little bit closer, but without the convenience of resting at your bonfire.
Yes.
I will not change.
Not bonfire.
You're not bonfire. And being able to change up all of the different things there. So, likewise, you've got magics and you've got miracles by different names. So it's sorceries, I believe that's the same previous, and incantations, the new sort of versions of miracles. Ben, what build did you go for? I went for a faith strength build.
I went for the I can't remember what the class was called, because it gives you a choice of set classes at the beginning. It was the sorcery one, basically, the knight, the blue knight with the sorceries, which I did struggle with a bit because I don't like the pike spear weapon.
Oh, it gives you a spear.
And that was the one, and I foolishly, even though I found other weapons, I didn't really experiment. Again, I didn't have much time really to experiment with the different classes. But it doesn't really matter what class you pick a lot of the time. Well, that's a lie. Basically, I was trying to segue into the fact that you find things in the world called Ashes of War. They usually come after defeating a boss or going through a dungeon. We'll talk about dungeons in a second because they're really cool. And it's basically a TM from Pokemon. And if you're familiar with the weapon arts from Dark Souls 3, where you can press a button and each weapon has like a specific weapon art, which is more powerful than a regular attack, but it also drains a bit of your magic bar, your FP, focus points, focus power, I don't know what it's called. And these you can equip to, admittedly, specific Ashes of War can only be equipped to specific types of weapon. But you can find all sorts of really cool and crazy stuff. So there's one that's like a super parry that I had with my with my shield. There's one that I've seen which is just like some mad spinning attack. Basically, they all look incredible, and they usually do quite a lot of damage. Moving on from that, you can also summon in buddy buds.
That's right. Just in single player as well.
Single player and online. So online, very briefly, works in exactly the way you would imagine. You can summon friends in by using a consumable item that makes you basically open to multiplayer, which means you can be invaded, or you can summon people in.
You get a generous number of them at the start as well. So
yes, in the closed network test, they just let you do it as many times as you want. But you can, I think there's either a choice of putting your sign down on the floor and being summoned in, or interacting with a sign on the floor as with previous, or using something called a summon pool, where you just summon in anyone who's game nearby and just bring them in.
It's a clever approach to something that is bigger. It's a lot bigger. There's like an open world, so trying to scour the land and find like a specific spot for all of these summons is going to be a nightmare. So I think it's a really good solution to a problem that they made themselves. But
speaking of solutions to problems they've made themselves, how about those offline summons, huh? Tell me about those.
Oh, genius. So annoyingly, it's the one thing that I missed out on doing because I thought I needed a specific item in order to summon them. No, you just equip these things. So they're very easy to find.
They're also called ashes for some reason.
So I believe that was it, wasn't it? They were ashes. So I have seen footage of this in action anyway. So you can summon different like spectral buddies. So it could be like a group of just base level, like I think it's like 5 base level sort of villager type, basic enemies. You can summon wolves. I believe there's
the wolves.
Nice. They
3
looked
wolves.
Quite effective. Yeah. Jellyfish as well. I saw these out in the world. Yeah. And you can get your little spectral summon versions of them.
Yeah, you can only do it in specific places.
Yeah, so it's only when there's a symbol on the left in certain, I believe, maybe in boss fights, but certainly in open world, certain areas in the open world as well.
Yeah, so, absolutely. I found the wolves to be, there's been a lot of, because you can't use them in multiplayer, which is understandable, but there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not they're too powerful and they might need to be nerfed because my wolves did carry me through a couple of boss fights because the wolves are so effective because they're so fast. They've got low HP, but they hit hard and they move so quickly.
And there's a group of them.
Yeah, and they distract the boss completely, so you can just focus on getting your hits in and not getting hurt because there's like 3 other things running around. But it is a nice change, and again, it's all just alongside the sort of Ashes of War that you can equip to your weapons to change up your special attacks if you want to use those. It's all just the whole game is just kind of, it wants you to experiment and try different things and go to different places, and every so often you will find a little dungeon to go down, which is far more in line with the traditional Soulsborne experience. Sort of a linear crafted thing, not a random thing like the Chalice dungeons from Bloodborne, which I wasn't a huge fan of because they're just sort of segments of map snapped together in certain
kind of like
ways.
Map maker mode sort of thing.
Yeah, but it was randomly generated. So some of them felt like they were designed, but anyway, these ones are all sort of designed, and they'll just be tucked away. And usually there's a boss at the end of them, and so on. There's stuff to find, resources, always worth exploring and going through, and you never know what you're going to find there. There is a set path, like a real path that you should go on with the big bad boy bosses who are tough. But yes, that usually if you're a little misplaced and you're not sure where to go, if you sit at a site of lost grace, there's like a golden aura sort of pointing roughly in the direction of where you need to go. So
it's like a nice gentle nudge in the right direction.
Absolutely.
It's very much in line with, the Soulsborne aspect of, we're not going to actually give you help, but we'll give you something at least. And I feel like it's quite a bit more accessible anyway, but without losing that, edge of like ambiguity that you kind of get with these Soulsborne games anyway. Sort of a similar thing would just be like the combat itself. You've got different abilities to try out. The summons help you out as well. So even though it's still hard as nails, especially at the start, and it will be harsh but fair in that sort of respect, it's it gives you a few more options there. But what else grabbed you from this network test then?
I suppose it was accessibility is really the point there. What you said, I really appreciated that because it's now so big and so open. They've had to change tact in a number of ways, and I actually really like it because for the first time in a long time, I actually felt really inspired and intrigued by an open world.
This is it, yeah.
And I remember, I haven't felt like this since I played Oblivion. Like,
wow.
I was just, it's this beautiful landscape where you can walk in any direction and find something interesting. And yet there's always a reason to do it, leveling up, getting stronger. And there'll be some... there'll be some occasions where you get frustrated and die over and over again, but there's multiplayer for that. There are these offline summons you can now do. And also the fact that you can just sort of go around and explore and find things to make yourself more powerful and then come back. There is obviously still an element of getting good. You have to know how to play the game. But I think now more so than in any other Soulsborne game, you have the opportunity to explore the world and become stronger, easier, in a more sort of, I don't know what's the right term, like gentle setting.
Yeah.
Like you can,
it's fluidly. You're not like
having to run down a corridor
rather than and then the only option is just run back.
Yeah.
So you have more options.
Exactly. And leveling up previously, grinding levels would be run up the bridge, have the dragon kill everything on the bridge, run back down, teleport away, come back. And so the enemies are respawn. Whereas now it feels different. It feels like there's, it's just, it's the next logical step for this series. And I think they've done phenomenally. And I only played a tiny bit of it.
I managed to play 6 hours total. A small amount of footage was lost, unfortunately, including some cool intros to 2 very cool bosses. But that's annoying. But in terms of, I just wanted to cover there were a few issues. So one thing that has been and is pretty typical, just on Twitter in general. There's been a few sort of murmurs of, the textures don't look as next gen, and we've been sort of spoiled with that. Personally, for the record, I think the art direction just more than makes up for that, and it looks beautiful, spectacular. I did find I had a fair few frame rate issues. And
it sort of hung it sort of hung for a second in places.
Yeah, it was a strange thing, and then the other thing was so there was some noticeable visual pop-in as well. Again, that might be just a network thing. There's something that they're going to polish in the next couple of months, hopefully, but. Still, it's one of those things where, and that was on performance mode as well. I believe you could switch between performance and fidelity on the PS5 builds, which you were also on the PS5 build, right? Yeah. So, slight issues there, but I mean, very, very much like drop in the ocean when compared to just being able to play an open world like Dark Souls or Soulsborne game that is just everything you thought it could be and then more. And it's wow, it's stunning.
It's good. It's really good. You should all be very excited. And I think it's still on track for a February release.
February 25th, I think.
Be excited, everyone. Just gives us enough time to say Elden Ring, more like Elden Bling, because it's better. It's even better than just a ring. It's it's full-on jewelry, my dude.
Elden Ring, more like held on... ping. I mean, hold on for the ping. Hold on for Elden Ring. It's coming. It's coming soon.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know why
Excellent.
the ping came into it. Ignore the ping.
All right, we're going now. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you later.
Thank you very much. Bye.